Just check it out for yourself. Follow me.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Bearding Without Borders, live on a Thursday night. And we have actually got a fun guest with us tonight. Somebody that I've actually been wanting to get on here for a little while and just talk one-on-one so we can have some fun and kind of get some backstory. Well, I say one-on-one because a lot of our friends are currently, of course, over in Germany doing, oh, hey, don't worry, Aaron. We got you here in spirit. We're gonna pull this up, but of course, we've got a lot of friends, and I just want to say thank you to Scott Sykora for coming on tonight. But I also want to say good luck to all our friends that are currently going to the Blackbeard's World Beard and Mustache Championship 2023 over in Berghausen, Germany. I'm rather excited to see how that plays out. So, without further ado, no fun beard fact tonight. We're just going to jump straight into it. Mr. Scott Sykora, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. How about you? Oh, I'm a little hot there. How about you?
I'm doing great. Oh, hey, look at that. Old Scott Sykora done jumped into the comment thread already.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Now, just because I know that, this is Thursday night, not Tuesday night, and I know that it kind of feels weird for you to be by yourself, so I decided to make this a little bit easier for you. I brought a guest with us.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey. So just wanted to make sure we just want to make sure, Aaron, that you knew that you were here with us in spirit and you are front and center.
Right here, right now. This picture was literally taken moments ago.
Yeah, like Aaron sent this to Scott literally like 5 minutes before we went live, and Scott did some quick magic to go ahead and make sure we could have Aaron with us. That's a good picture of Aaron. That the surprise look on his face, even.
I know he's surprised he's on the show tonight.
That's right.
Whoa, he's mad.
A little bit.
He's in California.
So, but man, thank you once again. And sorry, Aaron, couldn't help ourselves. What's up, Stevie? Kyle, how are you guys tonight? So, man, let's just kind of dive in, because you've probably got one of the most storied histories in the community when it comes to. I know you quite frequently tell me you weren't the first, but you have definitely been one of the longest running shows in the community, starting as the Beardcaster, and then of course merging over with Aaron and doing Talking Beards. So how did you get into this, man?
I'd always been into like radio and stuff, the typical when you're a little kid, hang out with your friend, you guys tape record yourselves doing a fun little radio program. And, it just kind of started there, like when I was in 4th or 5th grade. And it just, as I went into college, I discovered college radio. And hello, Andrew.
Mr. Hank jumping in.
I became addicted to it. And it wasn't the fact of like being on-air personality or being like live on air doing shows. And I mean, though, what ended up being my freshman year of college ended up just turning into me living pretty much at the radio station, and trying to fill in as many different slots as I possibly could, just because I wanted the experience and I loved it and I really liked it. But I did it more for like being able to go to shows all the time. Like I got free tickets to go to shows, and I was going to concerts all the time. So at the time in a band too. So it's just a lot of networking and just stuff like that. So I guess that would probably be back where it all kind of came, where it all started. But then kind of how it all evolved into what it is many years later, I said slots. Yes. Oh, Aaron, I want to show you my hot new slot I got here.
Uh-oh. Oh man.
I'm gonna crack this slot right open.
He's opening wide for it.
Oh.
Let's see.
Oh, flip that slot open.
Oh my goodness. Look at that slot.
So hot. But once around the year 2009, maybe 2010, I started doing tour managing. And as I was out on the road, I was basically doing like, it wasn't a battle of the bands per se, but we were where I was sent out to scout basically local music. And we would put together like a showcase over a Saturday or Friday and a Saturday. It's up Traffic Cone. And I would literally sit through any night, like 20, that is a huge slot, maybe 20 to 30 local bands every weekend. And I was traveling to another city, just kept just so many bands, so much music, and everyone would give me their CD, or they'd be like, here's my friend's CD. And next thing I know, I have like cases and cases and boxes full of CDs. And part of my job too was to like listen to these and be like, all right, these ones are good. These ones we should set aside for our minor label guys. And then if there was something that was a little bit more polished and didn't need a lot of work, I had another group of people I could send it to. Or if it was just like, here, this is ready to go to like right out, and we had that pile too. So I had to like listen to everything, and it just was extremely tedious. But I liked music, and I would just listen, and then I put the CDs in my CD slot. In this very laptop, which I just realized that this is a 2010 MacBook. This thing's running like a champ. It's great. Macs are just great computers.
Just a straight up beater.
Yeah, dude, that computer's been through so much, and it's just been great. But I was just collecting all this music, and I was like, man, podcasting was still really new at this time. Like, I'm thinking this is like around 2010, and podcasting had only been around for less than 5 years. It was like kind of kicked off around 2005 ish. But I kind of looked into it a little bit just because I was like, what is this podcasting stuff? And it was really complicated to get into it. I bought books and I tried to figure things out, and it was expensive. And I just kind of pushed it to the back burner. And I'm like, well, this would be a really cool idea to do like a music show. I could do it on a podcast and promote these bands. And it was just, the process was too complicated. So somehow, some way, as I always do in my life, I kind of stumble into another really great situation where there was a girl at this other local college station wanted to do a local music show, but she didn't want to do it about Cleveland. And she was like, I need help. And she reached out to me, and I'm like, well, I have limitless music, and like I've talked with all these bands. I could give stories. We could invite like local big time, like either signed musicians from Cleveland, and have them like give these bands like some tips on how they could be successful, blah, blah, blah. So this was my foot back into the door, getting back into like regular radio again. And we had a show that was live every Thursday night. And I'd show up at the studio at like 6 and load everything into the computers there, get everything ready. We'd do the show from 7 to 8:30. I'd take off, go home, go to bed, get up the next morning and fly off to some other city to listen to, which ended up being like pretty much like 20 or 30 of the worst bands I've ever seen in my life. So, but just that's why I'm so jaded against music anymore these days. But so anyways, this show went on for like months and months, and it was tough because I was like, I really didn't have enough time to go through everything. And then I had to like listen to everything because everything had to be clean. There couldn't be any swearing. And, in some of these like metal bands that I listen to, you can't tell what they're saying. So thank God. So that was able to get that stuff under the radar. But then there was we were getting other submissions from like other types of bands too, where it's like, it was really good music, and it was clean, folk music or just regular alternative rock or whatever. But I'd have to like listen to all that stuff, and it just became very tedious. And after a while, it was just too much work, and so I just kind of stopped. And a few years after that, I kind of was like, got back into podcasting, started listening to a bunch of shows, and like kind of felt like really inspired. Like I've thought about doing this forever. I really like this aspect. I like the behind the scenes stuff. What can I do a podcast about? What am I passionate about? And, that's kind of what the whole thing is like, to successfully have a podcast or a live show, you have to be extremely passionate about something. And I think, just saying that right now, like it's making me realize that I am like super passionate about beards and the beard culture. But it's over time, like that passion you have, the fire, that's just burning, it doesn't fade away. You just don't see it anymore, but it's still there. And this was like one of those prolific moments where, as we're talking about this right now, and I'm thinking about like my passion and how much more knowledgeable and passionate I am about the whole field of beards and stuff than I was when I started in 2015. But yeah, Russ Young, he apologizes. He missed the beginning. He says,
Yeah.
Yes, I do have a music background. Yeah, I was in bands for a long time in the Cleveland area, and
Cleveland is a music mecca. Like, there's been a lot of really good bands to come out. Like, as much as I give grief to Ohio because Ohio kind of sucks, like to certain extents, like, but like music wise, rock music and stuff like that, like Ohio's always been pretty well versed.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for the hard rock scene too. I mean, that was, getting into that scene in the early 90s, and literally those were the only shows you could go to. There were no other bands coming through Cleveland. It was all metal. It was just like every club, that's what it was. Big shows, small shows. Everyone came through Cleveland, and that's how we grew up through the 90s. It was just constant, just metal. And
now, when you say metal, are you talking like Pantera, or are we talking more like, Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that?
Well, and that's kind of, Cleveland was like a good melting pot of like different genres of metal, because we had I'm just trying to think, like Spud Monsters was like one of Cleveland's like really unsung heroes when it comes to like the hard music scene. They would go back into the mid to early 80s for like the hardcore scene. Like they really were one of those bands that kind of were in that movement of the hardcore scene. And as they kind of got through into the early 90s, they really morphed into a heavier band, but they still were very hardcore rooted.
I'm gonna throw one at you.
What?
I'm gonna throw Green Jelly.
Green Jelly.
I actually knew the drummer from Green Jelly. He was one of my childhood best friends. His cousin was the drummer for Green Jelly, and that's how I got familiar with some of the like Ohio rock and hard rock scene.
Little pig, let me in, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
I still like listening to that song on occasion, but
it makes you laugh for sure.
It really does. Man, like the music scene is all like that was. We didn't get a lot of that. We didn't get a lot of that where I'm from, but like we had our metal movement, so to speak, in the mid 2000s in Tennessee, which was always really good. But like that was you're talking about the generation of like real good music, like good what metal should have been, and not the craziness that we get in some of the world now. So
yeah, I mean, and that's what I said. What one of the cool things about Cleveland was it was definitely a melting pot. Like even being in a local band, all of our friends that were in bands, everyone was a different type. Like our band was like more like thrash metal. and then like our best friends band, like guys, this band called Odious Sanction, they were like grindcore, like they were just the screaming, just really fast stuff. And then we had another band that was like kind of friends with that was even more extreme. And then everyone was like all different types, but we all hung out, we all got along. Our bands played together all the time, so it was like we were always experiencing and sitting around. Like, for instance, I like my shirt Immolation. My really good friend Steve Shalat, he plays drums for them. Him and I grew up together and started playing drums together. And he actually is just celebrating his 20th year playing drums for Immolation. And they were just in town a couple weeks ago opening for Obituary. They're on tour with them. And we were kind of sitting down and talking. We went to dinner and we were talking about like, we're kind of just reminiscing about like when we used to hang out back in the days and like all these bands that he really introduced me to. Like we would just, all the bands would practice and then each guy would like, we'd switch all out and everyone would just jam together. And then when we were done, we'd go upstairs and sit around a boombox and guys would just stick tapes in the tape deck and be like, check this band out, check this band out. And it just seemed like all these bands that Steve was showing me all the time was just like blowing my mind. And the thing was, is they were like all different kinds of things. It wasn't just all like super heavy metal or this and that. It was just everyone had such an open mind to different types of music, and everyone always shared all these different things. And though I did not like half of them and they didn't like half the stuff I said, but it gets you like listening to metal. We're not like just so narrow tracked.
No.
The rest of all music doesn't exist. But
so I was a bass player. Like that was my instrument. And I found that when I wanted to learn something new, I listened to a lot more jazz and like I liked more of an upbeat, or like I liked swing music a lot when I'm trying to learn something, just because I like the way the bass lines were played out. So it's like I found that most people in metal bands don't necessarily listen to metal like 24/7. They tend to gravitate towards something else. And I guess for me it was, like I said, jazz. I got into a little bit of the bluegrass just because I liked the way it played out, and just learning different kind of rhythm. And that was always kind of my thing. But as a drummer, I don't know. What did you kind of gravitate towards, like when you weren't on the metal kick?
so there's another interesting side story in here too, because as I started out, it was metal, and like we were saying, just like meeting new bands, becoming friends. We became really good friends with these guys in an industrial band, and clearly, well, I did not like Britney Spears. I was more of Mandy Moore. I liked her. She was good.
Spice Girls.
But my jam was Hillary Duff, though. He's all about that bass. Yeah. So we had friends that were in an industrial band, and I really, coming from Cleveland again, talking about the history, like 9 Inch Nails, like we were like right at the tail end, like right before they really blew up. I mean, they were still playing the small clubs that we were playing. It'd be like we'd play on a Friday night, and some iteration of like those guys were playing at the clubs we were too. And then Filter comes along too, as he separates out of 9 Inch Nails. But then we also had other I guess popular industrial bands at the time. I'm trying to really think of a couple of them, and I wasn't 9 Inch. No, I was not, Aaron. But that's where kind of that whole scene started too. Cause I mean, it was kind of metalish, but yet it was like technology was starting to really get into music. And, with the beats and stuff like drum and bass and techno and all that stuff was like real popular at that time too. It was kind of like trying to like meld all of that stuff together. And that's what I always liked about the industrial movement was it was like real technologically advanced, but it still had the tribalism of like regular type of music. And that's what I really liked about Like I would just like practice. No, I don't like the White Stripes. Can't stand them. I would just like literally practice for hours and hours and hours in my garage, like to just drum loops, like just a beat would be playing in my earphones and I would just play to it. And that got my timing up really good. So these guys in this industrial band are like, "Hey, do you want to drum for us live? You know, we'll give you all the tracks you need to know, just follow the drums in them." So I was like, "All right, this is cool," you know, because it's something I've always wanted to do. And I brought my guitar player with me. And we basically were the live drummer and the live guitar player for this industrial band. And we did that for years. And man, it was a lot of fun. It's a different culture and a different type of whole thing from like the metal scene to the industrial scene and in the goth side of it too. Like we used to do a lot of goth bars and
Right.
yeah, I mean, I got to see many different sides of like the whole scene and stuff like that. At the same time though, I was away at college doing my radio stuff there, and I was out one night checking bands out, and I saw this group of 4 girls that all played acoustic guitar, and they played the most beautiful folk music I've ever heard. So I was after they were done playing, I walked over to them and started talking to them and blah, blah, blah. One thing leads to another, and they're like, "Hey, would you like to play drums for us?" And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like way over here, and you guys are like, I don't know. And they're just like, you know, we just gelled really well. And so I brought in my friend that was a bass player because I always needed these like buffers between me and whoever I was going to be working with. And we started just rehearsing, playing, and like it was so much fun. We got super popular, which I didn't stick with the band long enough to see where it ended up. All the girls ended up kind of going away and stuff like that. So, but it could have amounted to something really cool and fun, but it was definitely a whole nother world again because I'm playing these like little like craft fairs at like flea markets and you know, or the park or like some like vegan vegetarian bar or you know, that was a whole nother world that I was getting submerged into. So it was just kind of cool to like experience that as well. So
I mean, that sounds like it's actually really cool, like getting into that kind of world.
I do like Primus.
I actually like Primus. Yeah, I can agree with that. I do not have I do not have the voice of an angel, more like a wounded cat. But
yeah, so
I do you miss it? Do you miss playing music on a regular basis or
sometimes, I mean, as my musical career kind of advanced, it went away from playing into more the management and all that the business side of it, which that's how I ended up pretty much leaving playing anymore was I just kind of made that transition and I felt more uncomfortable, but yet comfortable. Like this was more of like where I belonged. And I got to do all the cool things of touring, but I didn't have to set my gear up and play every night.
so that kind of sounds like you and Patrick Dawson have a similar path. It sounds like music wise. He just kind of looks like he went more into the event side of it than you did.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing was just my friend who I was in a band with that we parted ways at one point. He started up this company and he had a couple people working for him and he's like sending these guys out to these different states trying to do business and they're coming back with like, you know, all this money. And he's like, dude, they're stealing from me. And I'm like, well, you got to hire someone that you trust, I guess. And he's like, well, I trust you. So you're working for me now. And that's kind of just how it happened. And one thing led to another and years of, you know, checking out all these bands and stuff and just making connections. And it's slowly turned me into where I'm at this point. I mean, that's the way I look at it because I remember very many situations that I got put into that I was super uncomfortable in. But ended up having to just trust in myself to be able to work through it and get to the other side, and ending up like, wow, it wasn't as bad as I thought. And wow, I can really tackle my problems if I go at them head on. And wow, I learned so much from this. And that's what I learned from the business side of music. Like you're going to be scared about doing things, about experiences, but you just gotta do it, and you're going to learn and you're going to grow so much from it. And once I centered that and realized that, I moved that into each different chapter of my life. When it came to the podcasting stuff, it was, all right, when I approached this like 7 or 8 years ago, I was scared. I didn't know how to do it. The technology scared me. But you know what? I really want to do a podcast. So I spent about 5 months just every day watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts about podcasts. Was there? Yeah. So this kind of, as the story is progressing into this right here. So it gave me the balls to be like, all right, so what's up, Jake? I'm going to tackle this podcasting thing. So as I'm learning this, I'm still trying to think, well, what am I passionate about? What am I going to like do a show about? And not even like, as I see this on my face every day, and at this point I'm done with the music stuff and I'm doing this stuff, going every place every weekend, this doesn't dawn on me that this is what I'm passionate about. Like, no, I'm passionate about UFOs and alien abduction. And that's like my jam. That's been my other jam all growing up and stuff. And my library of books is like ridiculous. And I am like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a show about UFOs. There's not very many podcasts out there at that time about it. And so I'm like, all right, so I'm getting all my stuff ready, getting an ideas, and well, this is going to be really hard because there's a lot of research, but whatever. I was listening to every single podcast I could find about UFOs, and I got hooked up with a guy that was doing a show. He just had started, and like we corresponded a lot, and he gave me lots of tips on how to do things. And his show ended up becoming like humongous. Like he has one of the biggest paranormal UFO shows out there currently. And what was that?
Now I'm curious. Who?
It's called Podcast UFO with Martin Willis.
Yes, I've seen that floating around on my shows you might like page.
Yeah, definitely check that. I've been like, I was a $20 a month supporter of that show for years. Like, I loved it. I loved Martin. I knew so much about him in his like personal life and the show. It was like I got to become friends with the guy, and so it was like really inspiring to see like someone that you were talking to and you loved the stuff they were doing. Like you're watching them grow, and you felt really good. Now, I will say I have not listened to the show in a while. I became disenchanted with the whole UFO scene over the past probably 5 or 6 years. Just not much going on. But as we see as of today, June 8th, there's tons of stuff that's just flooding out right at this very moment.
Declassified files and all this that's coming out. Like there's so much wildness going on.
Yeah. So tons of stuff. So cut to the chase. So I'm getting ready to do this podcast, and like literally I'm getting ready to record my first show, and 3 or 4 new UFO shows pop up like out of the blue. And I'm going, what the heck? So I listened to one of them and I'm like, wow, this sounds exactly like my whole plan, my whole idea. So I'm like super deflated. And I'm like, oh. So I just kind of just ran with my tail behind my legs and was just like, I have no idea what to do. And then for some odd reason, I was talking to one of my dumb friends back home, and he's like, why don't you just do a podcast about beards? He's like, you could call it the Beardcaster. And I was like, that is such a stupid name. And he's like, but man, it's like you're doing a podcast and it's about beards, so put the two together. And I was like, all right, I get it. So I did a little search and everything, and there wasn't. I couldn't find any podcasts. I did find one. It was called Dan. I'm so sorry if I totally. It's been years since I remember, but he goes by the name Drunkle Dan, and I think it was called the Drunken Beardsman.
I think it's what it is. Yeah.
But anyways, so he was the guy. He had the show. He had a whole ton of episodes out, and I listened to some of them, and they were beard related. Others had nothing to do with beards. But I was like, wow, this is really cool. And he was from Australia, so he had a really cool accent, and I really loved listening to him. And I was like, all right, well, I'm like, he talks to guys and like clubs and he talks about stuff, he doesn't have everything like real particular. And I'm like, well, maybe I could talk to these people too, but talk to them about their event that they're going to be throwing. And then that's kind of how it all started was, all right, so this guy had this show. It wasn't even on anymore. Also, I corresponded with Dan a lot to, be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you feel am I going to be walking on your feet? And he's like, oh, no, please, by all means, go for it. And he'd talk about me on his show, which was cool. But yeah, it was to have someone there with me at the very beginning and to kind of like be in a way like a teacher. Not that he really taught me much, but it was like the blessing of like, yeah, just do it, man. This like this is what the beard scene needs. And I'm like, all right, can be that by this time it's like, Whisker Wars was done with their second season or so about this point, or later than that, I guess. This would have been way later after the second season. But I mean, that was out there, and people were cool into that. And the whole gist of that show was beard competitions. And so that's kind of like gave me the whole idea for the Beardcaster was like, this is what I'm passionate about. And, I want to showcase different people that are like making a name or throwing a really good competition. And, why are they doing it? What, give me information about it. And let's talk about the charity and stuff like that. Jonathan Shields.
Good
Hello.
Man. Hello. So we're let's back up just a hair, because we know we're getting the stories of the Beardcaster. But how did you get into the beard community? Like, we kind of shined over that one just a hair. I'm kind of curious of like, how did you stumble into it? Like, you were hard in the music scene and doing all the traveling with that. How did you find yourself inside this community?
I'd always had a beard. In fact, up in my memories, one of my band pictures came up, and I think the picture was like from 2004. And I had my beard braided, and like it was down to my belly button. And I mean, that's just the way I was. I had grown that beard for 5 years or whatever. And I guess anyone who's been to a metal show, I guess, would notice that there's lots of guys with beards there. And that's always been how it's always been. And even looking back to like when the music scene, like, and going back to my friend Steve from Immolation, like we always had this contest about who could grow their goatee longer. And I always used to like, he would just grow it and I'd start growing mine, and I'd be like, and I'd cut it. And then his would be getting longer. And like inevitably he would always have, his beard was always bigger, always better than mine. And he just always made me feel dumb about it. Not that he like went out of his way to make me feel dumb, but like, it was just like, man, Steve always had a way better beard than me. And it just
beard envy.
Yeah. And you're at that time too, like the popular bands like Pantera, Anthrax, you got Dimebag with his long beard, dyed it red. With Anthrax, Scott Ian, he had that. But there were always like guys in bands. It wasn't like an unnormal thing for me to see, or and just one day I was just like, all right, it might have been about I don't know, 2000, 2001. I just was like, all right, I'm done, and I just let it go. And it just went. And I don't know. I just was like, not cutting it anymore. And I've always had the goatee. I've never like ever really done a full beard. I mean, even though I do have one right now, but
Technically,
I,
you
yeah,
have a full beard by world standards.
yeah. But I always had a long beard. I always grew it. And like people around town just knew me as the beard guy. And, I didn't even, the beard competitions were not on my radar or anything. Other than our town has a little festival in the spring called the Maple Festival. And since 1950 something, they've been doing a beard and mustache contest at this event. And growing up, I guess I saw it, or maybe I didn't. I don't know. And I mean, from growing through middle school and high school and going to the festival, it was going on. I didn't ever think of it, but as I was older and I had a beard, and people were just like, "Hey, you should do the Maple Festival one," and I just would always forget about it, And then one year I was there, and they pulled me up there, and I won like 3 different categories and a whole bunch of awards and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, all right, cool, thanks." Came back the next year, did it again, and I did it for like 3 or 4 years. And then I cut my beard off. And then it was March 1st of 2009. Cutting your beard didn't help. No, it did. It made this one much better. I restarted growing my beard March 1st of 2009, and it went. And still, once again, didn't even dawn on me about the whole beard competition thing. And just grew it like it is now. And I got married, and my wife was looking online for something one day, and she's like, "Oh, look, there's a beard competition coming to Cleveland. We should go." And I'm like, "Well, what is this?" And we printed stuff out. I bought a ticket. I was like, "Oh, all right." I have no idea what a beard competition is. I'm looking online because I don't know like what's my style. Like I have no I'm it because they're like partial beard, and they're talking like a partial beard is a goatee, but they weren't the words that they used back then. I want to say this is around 2011, maybe, or 2010. It's one of those 2 years. It might even be 2012. MJ, if he was watching, he would tell me. He would know. But we went to this thing, and I was so confused, like, because I had no idea what I was doing, what category I was going in. And I walk in the door, and there's like all these bearded guys there. And I'm like, what? This is weird. I'm like, they're all at the same place. Like, I'm not seeing them in the wild. And
This is not a metal show. I'm confused.
yeah, and there's no music. And proceed to, I don't know, there was about 100 guys, and it was a weird event. It was a traveling beard event. I can't remember the name of it, but I ended up, what was that?
But Taxi would know.
Yeah, MJ would know for sure because they used his picture on the poster, and Cleveland Beard Off was what it was called. And then each city, whatever city's name it was the Beard Off. Mm-hmm. I ended up winning first place in my category and was like, holy cow, this is really great. And as I was leaving, these group of guys like came over and were like, hey, well, what are you doing in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks? I'm like, I don't know. And they like gave me a flyer to this event, and they're like, you should come to it. There's going to be guys from all over the country there. And I was like, all right. So I proceeded to leave this event, made a couple friends with a couple of guys because I thought they were pretty cool. And, they were talking to me about getting into a club. And I'm like, what's a beard club? I'm like, sounds like a cult. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. So I'm like, I'll just stand back and watch. So 3 weeks come up, and there's this competition called the Buckshot Beard Bonanza. And it was at this place called God, I want to say it was called Mustaches. It was the perfect place for the perfect event. So we get to this place and it's like one of those like a beard. Gosh, Andrew. But it was like one of these like kind of like narrow bars, but it was like really deep. And we walk in the front door and it's like you can't walk. It's like a can of sardines. It's like from front all the way to the back. It's just ridiculous. And I'm going, oh my God. And once again, all these guys with these huge beards and everything. And I'm just like, it was like so overwhelming. I had no idea what to do. So me and my wife start making it to the back and we get to the vendors areas and we're like just trying to get my bearings and everything. And I'll still remember this till the day I die. And it's probably why him and I are like such good friends. But this guy just comes over and he's like, hey, I'm Adam. And I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Scott. And he's like, oh, I'm from the Steel City Beard and Mustache Club. It was a guy named Adam Cosgrove. He had this beautiful mustache. And he starts just talking to me, making me feel so comfortable and like, asking all these really great questions and giving me information. I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. And I start just kind of looking around. And by this point I'd watched Whisker Wars and I'm like, oh goodness. I'm like, there's that guy. There's all these guys that I'd seen on the show. And I was like, wow. Still, once again, I have no idea what category, if I'm in the right one or not. There's no one there to like really explain anything. And the explanation for all these different styles back then was like so vague, not like it's so specific now, which I do feel like that helps make it much easier for guys to get into competition. But yeah, so I went through that night and won again. I got my first place in my category and met these two guys, Nathan and Thomas from the Beard Team Ohio. They were all the way on the other side of the state. And these guys are super cool. Like I hung out with them, talked with them for a while. Like, they're like, you should be a part of Beard Team Ohio. And so I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm like, I could stand behind that because that was just a vague thing. It wasn't like, but once again, I still don't know what clubs are. It's just. So as I'm leaving this event, these guys that invited me came up to me again. They're like, you got such a great beard. You could do a lot of good in the community. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm like, I'll come to some meetings and stuff and we'll see where this goes. Nope. Those hooks were in me at that point, and it just kind of like I became part of the club and I went to all the meetings and I just won, kept winning at everything I went to. And it, of course it's very addicting.
Oh yeah.
And it's a lot of fun too. But at the same time, I'm meeting all these like really great people. And it's like, I'm hearing all these cool stories and now dawning back onto like the whole start of everything. I don't know why I didn't look at it sooner to be like, wow, this is what I could do with a podcast. If I decided to do a podcast, these are the people I should be talking to and talking about. And just as time went on, it just all kind of fell into place. And that's how everything all began, from like literally square one.
It makes you feel better. I actually, when I first started looking into podcasting, it was and it's actually funny. Russ made the comment earlier about where he's from Tampa. When I first started, I was looking at doing a wrestling show. And that was the original idea. And then I actually did do another podcast before this one called the Random Hero Podcast. And it was supposed to be.
Oh my God, I subscribed to that.
Did you really?
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't think so. I think we had like 20 subscribers.
But I could have been one of them though.
Could have. It was and that show was with me and 3 other friends, and we were just going to be. It was kind of like a kitchen sink. We were going to talk about everything. And it ended up turning more political, and that's the reason I got out of it. And it kind of turned me off from the whole podcast thing. But I was originally going to start with a wrestling podcast, and kind of like in the same boat as you. Like I was like, I'm passionate about wrestling, but I don't really. There's so many different wrestling podcasts out there. Like my first podcast that I ever listened to was Colt Cabana's podcast, The Art of Wrestling. He was one of the first ones to really kind of kick off into the wrestling genre. And then it kind of clicked in my head last year that, maybe I should go into the bearding side. But your story has been far more interesting, mainly because like how you guys got started, and you went from the Beardcaster. You ran the Beardcaster for several years by yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, and that was kind of like when I started, I didn't trust anyone to do a show with, I guess. And I didn't really think about having a co-host. And so I just, was doing the normal interview. I'd try to interview people if I could in person at events, or then I would just have to FaceTime them and we would do it that way. So it was difficult at first. And, I was spent a lot of hours, like, I put a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort into those first few years. And I mean, I look at it now and it's like what would take me 20 hours in 1 week to do, I can now do in 45 minutes. Like that's what almost 8 years of podcasting has refined my technique, and technology plays a huge part in that too. But
I mean,
yeah,
you're my guru. When I have a question, I immediately come to you or Aaron, especially you, just because like if I can't figure out something, I'm gonna like audio side, I'm coming to you for any questions I have.
yeah, and that's for me now as a podcast listener. Like when I first started out, it was a lot of UFO podcasts, and then it turned into podcasts about podcasting because I wanted to learn everything I could about it. And basically, that's all I subscribed to. And to this day, that's all I really listen to. Like, probably 90% of the shows I listen to are all just straight up like what's going on in the industry, the latest news in the industry, what company's buying what company, what's the newest tools to use, what's the best way to market your podcasts. Like, that's all I listen to. Like, all day long at work is all about podcasting. Like, and as my girlfriend says to me, she's like, you listen to the most boring stuff. She's like, I can't even you can't have that on in the car when I'm here because I can't listen to it. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, this is like my schooling now. It's like I'm a sponge when it comes to this stuff. I'm really interested in it. And I want to know like what the newest cutting edge stuff is. I want to be, because now obviously there's other guys that are in the same bearding field now in podcasting. And part of me, like, I need to stay cutting edge. I need to stay one step ahead of everyone else. And I love the fact that there are so many new shows coming into the bearding community because number one, I get to make really cool new friends. And number two, it pushes me to become better and to be different and to evolve more. And three, four, I don't know, seven.
Seven.
It like drives me to keep going because right now we're about ready to hit 300 episodes. So that in itself is a huge thing because statistically, I want to say, I think the number was 75% of podcasts don't make it past their between 7th to 15th episode. Like people just start them up and they don't see them through. So
Andrew Hatton, Mr. Stash said it 100% the right way. Like, you are an inspiration, and we'll roll back into that one here in just a second because there's so much that I've learned just from listening to you and Aaron, and I wish I'd have spent, I wish I'd have got to know you as at the same time as Aaron. I ended up getting to know Aaron a lot more. Me and you are just now kind of starting to really kind of develop, but you guys have always been kind of an inspiration. I do want to get into the background of how you and Aaron connected. And I've heard Aaron talk about it, but I want to hear it from your perspective. But Russ asked a good question. Why is podcasting better than YouTube? to me personally, those two go kind of hand in hand. Like I personally love audio just because on the audio side, you don't have to worry about looking at a screen to know what's going on or anything like that. But I feel like podcasting and YouTube now are kind of a symbiotic relationship.
In YouTube's eyes, yes, it's a symbiotic relationship. There's a big stir up that's going on currently in the podcasting world because YouTube has now announced that they are becoming the home of podcasting and they're going to save podcasting, just like Spotify came in to swoop in and save podcasting. Yet they just laid off another 200 people yesterday in the podcasting division. Spotify was not by. Oh, sorry. I can't see the comments on my screen. I have you like really big on mine, so I can look into your eyes. You're so dreamy. But yeah, Spotify just came in and took everyone's RSS feeds so they could populate their app with more content that they could charge people money for.
Yep.
And not pay, just like they do with musicians. So that kind of peeved the whole podcasting community when that happened. And now they're paying the price because they invested all this money into their whole podcasting stuff and it's not paying off like they had anticipated. And it doesn't look too good for Spotify in the podcasting field. No. Now, that being said, YouTube has decided that they're going to be jumping in and making you their new place for submissions. Well, some companies have been able, I've been submitting my podcast on YouTube since day one. If you go to the Beardcaster YouTube page, all the episodes are there from day one, and it's just you go and you listen. Now, this ties into the whole thing of like how Aaron and I met and kind of like how the podcast changed from what it was to what it is now, and answers his question as well. But I do a podcast about beards. It's very visual. So like for me, it just felt weird interviewing someone, not seeing them, not being able for a person to see who they were and to see things that they've done. Like for instance, like a Whiskerina, to be like, oh, well, your beard was like really great. You could use all the descriptive words you want, but you have to see it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that always irked me about the show because it's like, I really wish that there was a way I could start showing people like, you know, so I'd build these elaborate blogs with like all these pictures and this and that. No one ever looked at them. But to fix that, I thought, well, if there's a way I could record the stuff, but I'm like, I'm not very good at video. I don't have the time to do the editing, blah, blah, blah. What can I do to the show to get it to a different audience and maybe like try to go into the realm of YouTube and do video? And I just, like I said, spending 20 hours a week, maybe at the beginning, you know, it's slowly working down. It's like, I had no time to do anything. It was just all beards, work, some family time, and then all beard stuff all the time, working on stuff. And I really wanted to kind of like cut it back and like maybe figure out how can I do this to where I can just do a show and do it live and record it, and then bickety bam, I'm done with. I get everything all done, and I don't have to record a podcast. It's already done. I can do a video, and it's already done, and I don't have to edit it, you know. And I'm like, well, what kind of outlet would that be? And you know, of course, news. It's like it's a typical news format, and that was kind of my whole idea of like, all right, well, maybe you should just change the show from more of like one-on-one interview with the person to like more like a news style show, because more stuff had been going on in the bearding community other than just random events here and there, which back then there were quite a few, but not as many as kind of going into the mid 20s, 2010s or so. And I was just really wanting there to be a visual side to what I was doing. And so the whole news feeling was right. And I'm like, well, I need to have someone to do it with me. And as I'm like trying to like kind of figure all of this out and work on ideas, I'm like, well, I need to find a guy that's on YouTube. And I'm like, I want to find a beard guy that's like has a unique vision. I didn't want to just like hit up some like guy that does reviews and stuff because they're all the same. There's nothing original when it comes to guys who do like any types of beard oil reviews. Yeah, product. It's all the same. It's a guy sitting there like this and putting oil in their hand, showing the bottle. You know, it. And I mean, I guess I know I don't want to come off as like, you know, that I'm making fun of it. That's a whole genre in itself. And those guys, like my friend Dan C. Bearded, like he's figured out the formula to make it work, and he's making an awesome living off of it. And more power to him. I'm very happy for you. It's just not the way. I mean, and this was a conversation I had with him was, why can't I achieve the success that you are on YouTube with like Facebook or whatever? And he goes, this was his advice to me. He's like, you have to be in one place and just do everything you can to like be everything at that place. And I was just like, yeah, but like YouTube is for like beard oil reviews. Like that's, if you search YouTube for beard related
3 to 5 minute videos.
Yeah. That's all. When it comes to beard content, YouTube is like, that's their bread and butter when it comes to beard stuff. It's all beard reviews. But on Facebook, there was nothing like that. There was nothing at all. So, well, all right. So our news show can fit on Facebook, be in a unique place where nothing else is going on like that, and hopefully like gain some steam on its own. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to try all these other places. I want to get it up on Twitter. I want to get it up on YouTube. I want it on Facebook. I want it on MySpace. And, you know, I want it on my Apple IIe. I want to get it to all these places. So, you know, these are my thoughts. The more places you are, the more places you're going to be discovered, not realizing that this is like the great change of social media happening at that time where it's really turning hard from organic to pay to play. Like, or the organic stuff just was like that had done so well. Facebook figured out that, wow, they could just charge the people and give them the same results. So
demographic and
yeah. So we kind of fell into that weird place on Facebook when everything was changing, and that kind of hurt us to become anything bigger than I guess what we are. But we are at the right place at the right time with the right people, and I'm so thankful for that. I don't think it could handle like it being, you know, our show being watched by 10,000 people. It would just be too much. It'd be just too much chaos. We wouldn't be able to stay focused. This way, with its nice, small, quaint little audience that is ever so revolving, and we get new people in all the time. But it's like we get to know all these people individually in a way and become more part of their life as they become part of ours. So,
I will say that's probably been one of the coolest experiences about doing this is the people that I've gotten to communicate with, and then like. And I know that, you know, you and Aaron have been doing this a lot longer than I have. And I'm sure that, you know, you get noticed from YouTube and stuff like that. It's, you know,
no, dude, I know
from the beard community, like even the people you've never met, and they're like, hey, you know, that's Scott Sykora.
Yeah. I mean, they recognize me from the podcast or Talking Beards. I mean, That's always a funny one when you're in edit. Oh, that's that guy from Talking Beards. I'm like, what, that guy? I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird one for me when it first happened to me. I was like, hey, you're the guy from Bearding Without Borders. It's like, oh, that's me. I'm not sure exactly what to say to it, but like it's a smaller community, and it's nice because, like you said, you get to know the people in the community a little bit better, and you get to kind of engage with them on this level. We do actually have a question from Kyle. He says, would you ever do a live podcast in front of a live audience?
Yes, we would absolutely. And this is something that we've talked about this has been an idea that Aaron and I have kind of swished around for years. Like, I always thought it would be cool. And I mean, I guess I'll just throw this idea out there into the ether because maybe it might go somewhere, or maybe it might not. Being part of the Craft Whisker Club has been an awesome thing, and just seeing how that's grown and developed into something, and also at the same time, just how it pains me that it doesn't get more attention than it does, and more people don't watch and more people don't get involved. And it's just like, it's so much fun being in that group and with those people. And it's like, we just want to share the love and the amazement of that side, and just the talent that comes with it and the skill. And that's, was the whole kind of preface for the beard build off, and, doing the hour-long beard build and everything, and how Aaron and I got to be the first ones on there as the guinea pigs. And I always thought it would be a really cool idea to be able to do that live. And it's, since that point, it's happened a few times. Tisha's done it at the You Matter beard competitions. And there was one other place, but I can't remember where it was.
Was it Beardpalooza?
I don't know. I do not remember, but it's such a great, like, fun live thing to watch. And at the time, maybe years ago before COVID and stuff like that, especially during the heyday of bearding, which it's slowly working its way back, but everyone was always doing a pre-party on a Friday night. And this was my idea to Aaron. I'm like, how cool could it be for us to, like, just do like a pre-party at a venue, get it sponsored by some people, so everyone that comes in can get free drinks or maybe appetizers or something, so we can fill the house and do, as you say, a live podcast show where we just kind of do, Q&A stuff or whatever. Would anyone really want to see that? Who knows? I have any idea. And then
fun.
And then coordinate that in with a beard build off where you have 5 people come up and you line them up on stage and have them build their beards while Aaron and I make fun of them and distract them and take things away from them and give them other things and distract them and, really mess with them and try to inhibit the competition at the same time entertaining the audience. And, I feel like this could be like a whole, like, hour and a half long, 2-hour long little set or something that we could do. And I always thought it would be cool that would be something cool if we could travel like what Aaron does now, but from city to city that events are going on, and we host a pre-party on a Friday night before an event. And, that was like a long-term dream / goal that I've had. Like, that, I think that would be fun.
Talking Beards tailgate podcast parties. Actually, that I can agree. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And like I said, everyone's always like getting into town early, and everyone's always looking for a pre-party the night before. And, why not make a whole weekend an event? Like, some clubs really go hardcore and they make it, pub nights, and then they make it video game nights, or they do some cool different things. And, we just wanted to entertain people. We want to inform people. We want to help promote events. We want to help promote charities. We want people to see all the cool things that everyone's doing. And it's not, it's never been, maybe it's never been about us. It's been always about like what we can do with our show to help everyone else out. Cause we don't get anything out of this. Like, honest to God, I mean, other than the satisfaction, but like the amounts of money that I have sunk into this since day one, like it will blow your mind. And how much money have I ever made off of it? Maybe a couple $100. And I mean, and that's the thing is like, there's no money in this. Like so many people start podcasts because they're like, oh, we're going to make money off of it. Good luck. Let everyone and their mom know that formula because that ain't going to happen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm 39 episodes in, and I can tell you, like I can't imagine the money that you and Aaron have put in to doing this, but I can already kind of start to see, like, I see the expenses that go into this, and so
Yeah.
I 100% understand. What's up, Thad?
T-Had.
So,
but yeah.
Kyle says for you to hit him up after the show because he has an opportunity for you on about a live podcast.
Nah. Yeah, but, I mean, we're always up to trying new things for sure. I mean, we want to try to make events. I mean, and that's part of it too, because events aren't events if people aren't in the seats.
100%.
So, I mean, if we are popular enough and influential enough in the community and people, are coming to see us and meet us, that's cool too, but it's getting them in the door to events.
Right.
And thank God for Aaron's idea with thebeardcalendar.com because that
is a massive tool.
It really is. I mean, Aaron is a massive tool, yes, but
if Aaron's still watching, shots fired. So I think Corey says it really well here. Do it for the passion, hope for the legacy. Talking Beards are legends. And you guys really are. You guys are legends in this, in this community. And I have really enjoyed getting to know you. And I know you guys don't necessarily think of yourselves that, but you guys kind of kickstarted a whole different kind of movement. And
hopefully it wasn't a bowel movement.
No. But I've really, and that was the thing is I didn't want to, like when I started this show, I didn't want to step on your guys' toes. And that's why I ended up on the phone with Aaron for like 2 hours talking about this because I one of the things I didn't want to do is I didn't want to cut into what you guys were doing. And I know that I, like all shows, and you can attest is, eventually you kind of end up pulling into like the events side. I wanted to tell people stories more than the events, but the events kind of coincided. So it's one of those things that just kind of plays into what we do in the community because it's a good segue for like talking about the charities and the work. And I've really enjoyed that side of it. But I really enjoy, and that's one of the many reasons why I like watching Talking Beards is because you guys always get some really cool guests. You guys always pull in and you guys have a lot of cool things to talk about. And the chemistry between you and Aaron is phenomenal. Like you guys just bounce well off each other.
So I need to finish the story.
Yes.
So, all right. So I was on the hunt for a YouTube guy because transitioning from a podcast to a video show, I want someone who has a vision. And I run across this guy named Chris Odom, who is from Austin, Texas. And I'd just gotten back from 2017 Worlds, and I had just met Aaron. Like that was where him and I met. And like we had just kind of started talking at that point, and we were texting each other every day, blah blah blah. And a few months later, up comes Come and Shave It 11. I think that's which one it was. 10 or 11. And I was like, I'm going to go to Come and Shave It. No, I'm not gonna, because yeah, I don't have the money. I can't, blah, blah, blah. And of course, the last second, as everything that happened back then, it was like someone swooped in, hey, we'll pay for your flight. We'll take care of it. I mean, yeah, back then I got more cool stuff out of having a podcast than I do now, for sure, man. People were sending me places to cover things for them, take pictures for them. So that doesn't happen anymore. But so when I was going into Austin for that event, I hit Chris up and I'm like, I want to meet you when I get down there. Let's have lunch. I want to talk to you about an idea. So he picks me up from the airport. We go to this awesome place downtown Austin called the Texas Chili Parlor. If anyone ever comes to Austin, Texas, hit me up. We got to go there. That's like my favorite place. So Chris and I go to the Texas Chili Parlor, and I'm like, listen, I'm like, I like the stuff that he did on YouTube, and I'm like, what would you think about doing like a news show with me? And he's like, well, I don't really know like a whole lot. And I said, well, I'm really I need someone that can handle like doing live streaming, because I don't know how to do that. And I figured I could bring you in. You could be part of the show. You can help me live stream. And she's like, all right. And I'm like, but I need someone else. Like, I'd like it to be like 3 hosts. And I'm like, I don't know like who that person could be. And we were just kind of talking, brainstorming. And I'm like, what about Aaron? I'm like, he's really good at social media, and that would be really beneficial for us. Because if we have someone who's good at social media, then, and he's a world champion. So people may be like, oh my God, he's so famous. So I'm like, he's got a lot of good things going for him. And so we were at Come and Shave It. And I don't know if I pulled him aside, and I was like, hey, I got this idea. I'm like, I'm kind of thinking about flipping the podcast into like a live stream talk show, news show, and, releasing as a podcast and stuff. And I would like for you to be like a co-host. And he was kind of like, yeah, all right. Like he like was, yeah, and, so we tried this out, and our first few episodes were just horrific. And like Aaron was super awkward. He hadn't like found his voice yet. And I still remember like him calling me one night, and he told me that he got asked to MC their beard comp down there, and he was like, I can't do it. I can't get up in front of people and this and that. And I'm like, dude, you can. I'm like, you're a good speaker. I'm like, you have it in you. You have it in you. And I just kept talking to him, trying to build his confidence up, and finally ended up doing it. And like, it wasn't as bad as he thought it was going to be. Once again, as I go back to the whole thing of like putting yourself to uncomfortable situations, and you're going to learn so much out of it, and you're going to excel, and it's just going to make everything better. And that's just kind of what happened. And over time, Aaron just grew and grew more, and just keeps growing, and like becomes more confident, and just has like, I mean, even moving into his role with Honest Amish, you have to be assertive, and you have to be bold, and you have to, have a strong voice, and he has all of that. So yeah, so that's how everything transitioned from the Beardcaster to Talking Beards, and then why we went from podcast form to video form, because I felt there was more of a visual representation of what we were doing than a audio representation, but I still like just straight up podcasts. So bringing us back around to today, where we're about ready to hit 300 episodes of the Beardcaster / Talking Beards. And this I had talked to Ray about a couple weeks ago, but I'm thinking about starting up and kicking off this new series, going back to the Beardcaster and being just a straight up podcast, and going to be doing a whole series, many part series on throwing a beard competition. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a round table of specialized guests in certain topics of event planning. And we're going to go through all different types of scenarios and things that you as a beard club or a person in a beard club, if you want to throw a competition, it'll be like everything you need to know to throw a beard comp from beginning to end, and the best ways to do it and the best tips and tricks, because we really want to build this beard community even more. We need more people to be a part of it. We need more people coming to events because we need to help more people and these charities that we're trying to raise money for. And
I think that's a great idea. Like I told you back then, and I'm excited to see the podcast of that. Even participate if you like
yeah.
about. So,
but yeah, I mean, it's and the thing is I want it to be a service to not only the bearding community, but like to any other community or group that is thinking about hosting an event, like that they can just unplug the word beard out of the conversation and put poodle breeding in, or flower trimming or whatever, and they could be like, oh, let's have a flower trimming event, and how to get a sponsor, blah blah blah, or how to set your event up, and but I mean, I have detailed notes on all these different ideas and everything, and it'll be coming out this year, and just look forward. We'll let everyone know as it's coming out.
So just so you guys know, I've seen the list. It is extensive. We sat, this was 2 weeks ago, we sat on here and just talked for about 2 hours.
A few hours, yeah.
Just talked about all this and just going through what the ideas that we were, that he's brainstormed, that we brainstormed together, and we talked about. Like, there's a lot of cool things that, that I'm hoping to see come to fruition this year. And maybe there's another idea that came out of this episode that we could talk about backstage after this, because I had a thought to it. So in the middle of that.
Yeah. And the thing is like, I'm not like I wasn't afraid to share my idea with you, because I know I trust you. Like, I mean, we do shows. I know you're not going to take my idea and try to run with it. I mean, and if you did, I'd probably be upset, but I'd really like to see how your rendition of it would be. But I'm not afraid to throw the idea out there. I mean, because just like I said, that anyone that's listening to this could easily swoop up and take these ideas and make their own show. They could probably, I know, but it's once again, it's that throwing it out in the world and letting it happen.
But this is one of the things that I love about this community, especially like the relationships that we built when it comes around the shows and stuff like that, is it's not about taking somebody else's idea. I look at it more of a collaboration. And that's something that I've really enjoyed with you and Aaron, with other people in the community, especially people doing the same thing, like doing the shows and whatnot, is to see the differences in our shows and then finding something that we can do together, And so like I said, I'm really excited to see some of these ideas come to fruition and hope to be a part of it, because if we touched on a third of your list, like, the possibilities are endless.
So, I mean, and on top of that, there is a completely other show idea that Aaron, and actually there's two other. So not only with that list that I showed you, there's probably another 2 whole separate shows that we have already like outlined out on things we want to do too. So, I mean, like, literally we have enough content in our heads to keep us going for another probably 3 years and not repeat ourselves about a topic.
So man, I think you are the longest guest next to Michael Wallage, like longest running episode. And
that happens with a lot of podcasts I get on.
I like it, man. I absolutely love it. It's and because the content is genuine and it's been a fun story. Is there anything else that you'd like to go ahead and throw out there, since we're kind of wrapping into a few things? I got a few more questions I want to throw out.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone just check out talkingbeards.com. Like, if you guys are into podcasts, of course, go subscribe to Talking Beards. You can find just whatever app you listen on. Just put in Talking Beards in the search and it'll pop up. We are in every single podcasting app.
I can 100% attest to this. If you type in Talking Beards on Google, it's the first link that pops up.
Yeah. So
it shows up under the beardcaster.com. Just putting that out there. But
so when you type in Talking Beards, it'll take you to thebeardcaster.com. But just go check the website out. I mean, I had so many different like cool links and pages and stuff. And just as the years have gone by, I just slowly cut them back because no one goes to them. No one checks it out. So I just try to streamline the site to have exactly what everyone's looking for and not anymore, because I don't want to bog people down with stuff. So.
All right, man. One of the last questions, and it was kind of touched on a little bit earlier, is we were talking about the difference between YouTube and podcast, and going from podcasting to just doing the live stream, and then of course I know you still convert the audio and put it over onto the podcast platform. Like, based on when you started, we'll even just go back to when you started doing the YouTube side of it to now, what has been one of the best parts of the transition, like in the evolution, and what's been one of the worst parts?
Best part in the transition was probably Aaron.
I can agree with that.
Just meeting him, becoming his friend, and how close we are now. And the worst would probably be how it can make me feel like insignificant at times, like
watching the numbers.
Yeah, but it's like, I know I'm doing stuff. I know I'm making a change. I know I'm, trying to help. And it's like, I feel like I fall on deaf ears more than not. And it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And it can really put me into a funk. Aaron can attest to that. So
I mean, I can attest to it on my own personal account. Like, so you guys don't necessarily see it on our side, but there's a little ticker up in the corner that tells us how long we've been on, how many viewers we have, likes, and so on and so forth. And it is, it can be like, when you first start doing this, it can be very intimidating, like watching it, and then it can get in your head. And it took me about 20 episodes before I stopped paying attention so much to the ticker, before I was just like, like, I'm going to get my views later, or I'm going to do this. And so it was a challenge for a long time. And, 39 episodes in now, I still pay attention to it, but not as much. So I can attest, I can 100% agree with you there. Sometimes it's hard not to let it get in your head. So, and then with you, because I know we've talked about doing like YouTube shorts and stuff like that. And do you feel that's kind of where the next evolution is going?
I have no idea, and I can even pretend to know. I mean, I don't know what, like I said, with the change of social media over the past 8 years, it's the newest thing. It's the newest trend. How long is it going to be popular? I don't know, because everyone's doing it now. First it was TikTok, and then, then Instagram started doing it, and then YouTube. So, and then now Facebook. So it's just like they would have these like live chat rooms. That was like the big thing the past year and a half, 2 years. Like Clubhouse was one of them, or Twitter Spaces. Like
Discord.
Yeah, like that was the huge rage. And then all of a sudden plug was pulled on all that stuff because no one was doing it anymore. It was super popular at first, and then everyone lost interest.
That makes me think of Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch too. But if you can gain steam off of shorts, go for it. Or doing TikTok. I mean,
yeah. I know that there's been a lot of play into the TikTok world. Matt McClure from Beard Laws has had a lot of success with doing the shorts and the TikTok, and he was talking to me about that a few weeks back. It's a little wild, and I'm still trying to figure out the strategy with those myself. I just like getting on here and talking with people. So
yeah, no, and Matt and I have had long conversations and all that stuff. And yeah, he's crazy. Like he's just so hardcore into it, and I admire it so much. And he's got such drive, and he has so many ideas, and he's just he's not afraid.
No, and he definitely is bold with everything he does. So we'll do a shameless plug for Matt McClure right now.
Beard Laws.
Beard Laws on the Talking Beards Network, and it'll be on in less than an hour. So if you guys get a chance, check him out. He does some pretty fun stuff over there. So, all right, Scott, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. I'm going to kick you to the background here for a few minutes. Unless you want to do the finalize with me. Oh, look, Kiri jumped in.
Yay!
Another one who's found some success on TikTok is Mr. Kiri. He with his Snake Lab, he's done some wonderful things, and on YouTube as well. So I don't know if you guys want to check his stuff out.
Still miss his unicycle, learning how to ride his unicycle videos. Those were my favorite.
Yes, I think we should bring those back.
Yeah, start learning how to ride it again, Carrie.
Yes, let's do it again. So, but I'm gonna throw. Unless you want to go ahead and do the wrap up with me, I'm okay with you doing the wrap up.
You can pop me out if you need, whatever. I don't want to ruin your flow, man.
You're not gonna ruin my flow. I'm gonna do something a little different tonight. We're gonna.
Oh my gosh.
So of course, guys, don't forget Boston Scully got the 15% off. Use the code Bearded Rook. Big shout out to them. Of course, big shout out to Death Grip Vintage Grooming. Levi and them have always done really well for us, and they take care of me. I've been really big on their Night Owl beard balm. So if you guys get a chance, go check out their stuff. Going in, of course, to the weekend, and we'll start talking about our comps. So many things going on. If you are not sure what's going on in your area over the next few days, or really over the next year, go check out thebeardcalendar.com. There is so much stuff that's always going around, and you can throw a dart and pretty much hit a competition that's going to be somewhere near you. With that being said, don't forget here in Kentucky this coming weekend, Bluegrass Beard On, June the 10th. Will actually be there myself in Richmond, Kentucky. I love how you're looking over that. Put on by Beard and Loathing. And cool thing is I'm going to actually be a judge if you guys missed that announcement this coming weekend. So come out and help me out, and let's have some fun. If you're in the Michigan area, Sasquatch Uncut is doing their yearly competition. I think that's at the East Michigan Fairgrounds.
Yes.
So they are doing theirs, and Mark Burns and them always do a really good job up there. Unfortunately, I will be missing that since I am judging. If you are out of the country, let's not forget 2023 World Beard and Mustache Championship going on in Berghausen. Go ahead and just slide it out here. Hide. I love that. I'm just going to keep covering Scott up here. So if you are not doing anything on July the 15th, I want to say, Hoosier Beard Alliance is doing their charity bowling bash. That's going to be a lot of fun. That is presented, of course, by Honest Amish. That I will definitely be at and making a fool of myself trying to bowl. I think Scott needs to make that trip up and be a part of the Talking Beards bowling team.
Can't with my hands.
Yeah. Going into August, Bearded Theater put on by Beard Mob Indiana at the historic Crump Theater. I'm really excited about that. That's going to be a really good time. And then, of course, into September, and there will be more to add. September to the 9th, Music City Moonshine Classic, Beard and Mustache Championship put on by Beard Mob Tennessee. They had a lot of success last year. I'm rather excited to see how they do this year.
Are you?
I am. I really am. It was so much fun last year. It really was. I like this.
Did you?
I did. Did you? I don't know. Okay.
Don't you?
Yep. And then Aaron. He's going to kill us both. So
I know.
But all right, guys, that's going to be the show tonight. Thank you all for staying with us and listening to Scott's story. It's definitely great. I see you put in the beardcalendar.com up there.
Yeah. The best part about telling my origin story is it's different every time.
It's different every time.
It's so fun.
There's so much more to it. It keeps growing. It's evolving.
That's the thing is, like, I've told it so many times, and there's probably slight variations because I'm not good with dates and years. And I start as I'm thinking about, and I'm talking, like I'm trying to think of like what else in my life was going on at that point. So I could like be like, all right,
bring yourself back to the moment.
Yeah. So
like,
I think everything I told was pretty accurate.
We'll go from that. Oh, we got Anchorage, Alaska that just popped in.
Oh, hey.
James Granger. Hello, sir.
The sun's setting up there.
Yeah. Well, he unfortunately caught the end of the show, but don't worry. It is on the page, on YouTube, on the Talking Beards, on the Bearding Without Borders, just about anywhere you can find Scott and Aaron. You can find myself. You can always go back and rewatch the whole episode because it was a lot of fun. Thank you once again, Scott, for coming on tonight. And can't wait to do this again.
Thank you, Raymond. I was very excited to be on your show tonight.
Yeah. Well,
we should have you on ours sometime.
Maybe. We'll have to see about that.
We just did.
Yeah. All right, guys. Good night.